In 1817, a farmer named John Bell began hearing things inside his home in Adams, Tennessee. Knocking on the walls, chains dragging across the floor, something gnawing at the bedposts in the dark. Then it got worse. His daughter Betsy began waking up at night, screaming, with handprints on her face, marks on her neck, her hair pulled so hard it came out in clumps. John Bell tried everything. He boarded up the windows, he called the preacher, he moved his family's beds into different rooms. Nothing stopped it. Word spread. Neighbors came to witness it, then journalists, then investigators. And then, the President of the United States. Welcome back to Bone Cold, USA. Tonight, we go to Robertson County, Tennessee, and we meet the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch haunting is considered by paranormal researchers to be the most documented case of a spirit haunting in American history. It's the only case on record where a ghost is said to have caused the death of a person. And it's the only haunting that drew a sitting US president to investigate in person. This is not folklore. These events were recorded in diaries, court documents, and military records. Let's begin.
John Bell was a respected farmer and church elder in Adams, Tennessee, then called Red River. He lived with his wife Lucy and their 6 children on a prosperous 320-acre farm. By all accounts, the Bells were a good family, well-liked, church-going, hard-working. The trouble began quietly in the summer of 1817. John Bell started hearing strange sounds at night, something like an invisible dog scratching at the front door, then rapping on the walls. Then, more disturbingly, what sounded like someone smacking their lips just outside the bedroom. He told no one at first. He searched the farm. He found nothing. But then his youngest daughter, Betsy, 12 years old, started screaming in the night. Not from nightmares, from pain. She was being slapped, pinched. Her hair was being pulled by invisible hands. John Bell finally told his closest neighbor, James Johnson. Johnson came to the house and witnessed it himself. He heard the sounds. He watched Betsy cry out in pain with no one near her. He told John Bell, "This is not natural."
Over the next year, whatever was in the Bell home began to evolve. At first, it communicated by knocking. 1 knock for yes, 2 for no. Then it began to whistle. Then, incredibly, to sing. Witnesses reported hearing hymns being sung by a voice with no body attached to it. And then, it spoke. Neighbors gathered in the Bell home one evening and heard a voice, clear, distinct, and apparently female, speaking from the air itself. It could quote scripture. It could recite sermons it had supposedly heard miles away. It knew things about people in the room that no one else could have known. The entity seemed to have 2 clear feelings: a deep, vicious hatred for John Bell and a profound love for his wife, Lucy. It tormented John without mercy. It slapped him. It pulled his shoes off his feet while he slept. It caused violent spasms in his jaw that made it impossible for him to eat or speak properly for days at a time. But when Lucy was sick, it brought her fruit and sang softly to her through the night. Witnesses documented this behavior repeatedly. Whatever this thing was, it had preferences. It had personality.
By 1819, the Bell Witch haunting was known across Tennessee. People traveled from neighboring states to witness it. One of those people was General Andrew Jackson, future 7th President of the United States. Jackson had heard the stories and, reportedly, was skeptical. He traveled to Adams with a group of men, including a self-described witch tamer who claimed he could identify and neutralize supernatural entities. According to multiple accounts, including one written by Jackson's own traveling companion, strange things began happening before they even reached the Bell farm. Their wagons stopped moving. The wheels turned, but the horses could not pull it forward on a perfectly flat road. Jackson reportedly jumped down, examined the wheels, found nothing wrong, and said, and this is a documented quote, "By the eternal, boys, it is the witch." The wagon then moved freely on its own. That night at the Bell farm, the witch tamer announced loudly that he could see the spirit and intended to shoot it with a silver bullet. The moment he raised his pistol, he screamed, grabbed his body as though being beaten, and ran out of the house into the dark. He was found the next morning miles away, incoherent. Andrew Jackson reportedly stayed one more night, experienced phenomena he never fully described publicly, and left Adams, Tennessee, saying, again, documented, "I would rather fight the entire British Army than spend another night with the Bell Witch."
The haunting lasted 4 years, and throughout those 4 years, the entity's hatred of John Bell never diminished. In December of 1820, John Bell was found unresponsive in his bed. He could not be woken. On his bedside table was a small vial of dark liquid that no one in the family had put there. His son, John Jr., gave some of the liquid to the family cat. The cat died within minutes. When the family asked the entity what was in the vial, it reportedly laughed and said it had given John Bell a big dose and that he would never rise from that bed again. John Bell died the following morning, December 20, 1820. He is the only person in recorded American history whose death has been attributed to a supernatural entity by contemporary witnesses, including neighbors, a physician, and a church elder who were all present and all signed sworn statements. After his death, the entity visited the farm one more time. It said goodbye to Lucy Bell, it sang to her, and then it left. Almost.
Before it departed, the Bell Witch made a promise. It said it would return in 7 years. In 1828, it did. John Bell Jr. reported 3 weeks of renewed activity, voices, sounds, strange visions. Then it left again, promising to return once more in 107 years to visit the most direct descendant of John Bell. That would have been 1935. No descendant has ever publicly confirmed a visitation. But Adams, Tennessee, has never forgotten. Today, the Bell Farm and the Bell Witch Cave, a limestone cave on the original Bell property, draw thousands of visitors every year. The cave sits along the Red River, and visitors consistently report cold spots, equipment malfunctions, and the feeling of being watched. Paranormal investigators who have spent the night on the property describe activity that matches almost exactly the accounts written by witnesses in 1817. In 2006, the state of Tennessee formally recognized the Bell Witch legend as part of its official cultural heritage. Robertson County, Red River Road, Adams, Tennessee. It's still there.
The Bell Witch haunting stands apart from every other American ghost story because of one thing: the sheer number of credible witnesses who document it in real time. Neighbors, clergy, a military general, a future president. These were not people looking for attention. These were people who had no explanation and said so. If you've ever been to Adams, Tennessee, or if you've had your own experience you can't explain, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Subscribe so you never miss a story. And remember, some things don't leave, just because you asked them to.